Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So I had an interesting comment left a little while back asking why so many vloggers always concentrate on the Philippines when there's other countries that perhaps have better laws, but you can better ownership, you can run a business, you have way more rights. These are all valid concerns, and I want to touch base on them and go through them, and also discuss, I think, why some of the reasons is that they still pick the Philippines over this, or is there better options? And right after the brief introduction, we'll get right into it.
Let's hit the road in the Philippines where adventures unfold. With Brian's life compass, we'll on our way. Guiding true, traveling just me and you. Join the journey, it's adventures.
A couple key factors is the rights. So basically, as a foreigner there in the Philippines, you do have very limited rights. And the comment left there it's a very significant truth to it. You can pick a lot of other countries that you will have more rights in. However, they're just still not as good as it would be from your home country, more or less, okay? And some of them even are less rights. But the Philippines is known to be, you pretty much don't have any rights. You definitely can't own anything. You can own a condo only if it's been owned by 60% more by Filipinos. I hear now even 70% on some new development, especially along the water. Kind of makes common sense. I personally think that's a fantastic law for the Filipinos. It just protects the value of their land. So I really get it in that aspect of it. But the question is why? Why is it almost to the point where, again, I'm not saying it was a negative comment, but it's almost like it's overrated. And I think the real factor is, the other point was that was suggested, the cost is similar. Now, that's a slippery slope when it's similar, because budget videos, I mean, they vary all over the map. Really depends on your lifestyle. I would suggest you watch one of my videos on budgets right there, and that's what I break down and what I cost, and so on and so forth. Now, a lot of my budget videos, or when I talk about budget, is on the lower end, because sadly in North America, a lot of people's pension, it's every little penny matters. So, let's say, for example, you take Thailand, for example. The common thread I hear on that one is, yeah, it's a little bit more expensive on rent, but you get more bang for your buck. In other words, a little bit more modern apartment. Your internet might be a little bit better. Things like that. And for many people, that's a significant need. And for people that are on a budget, that extra 50, 75, or 100 or so more a month is the tipping point. So I think that makes the difference right there. So they'll choose something, okay, you still can get a decent place. Okay, it's not as fancy, or the internet isn't as strong, but I can do this and I can still afford it in my price range. And I think that's a key significance. And I also, now going back to the rights thing and all this kind of stuff, I'm also kind of a firm believer, if you look for trouble, you're going to find it. And I don't care what country you're in. If you're having a great time and you're respectful, okay, here's the key thing, respectful, I think the Philippines is golden. You're going to do just fine. The culture there is very warm, very welcoming. It really comes down to being humble and have a lot of respect. Okay, I think that's a huge difference right there. So I think that's another part. And then I would also argue, I really believe a lot of, especially the men, are going there for a relationship. And I think that I would argue that probably is one of the better places to go if you're looking for something like that along those lines, whether it's even just temporary and or serious. I think that you're pretty deep, and I know I'm going to get a lot of negative feedback on that one, but that's okay. It is what it is. It's just expressing an opinion. I think it may be overhyped, but I know the culture myself, and I see the value, the family oriented value, and how they care, and so on and so forth. And again, I'm sure other countries and cultures have this, but it might be a little bit harder to do the ice breaking to get into that scenario. Whereas in the Philippines, it's pretty much you smile and say hello, and you're opening up a conversation leading to a potential relationship. Okay, it's just that simple. and I don't mean any disrespect to that. It's just it's a very welcoming country that way in that respect. I think those are some of the key factors. Sadly, I really got to jump back on the rights thing a little bit here because I myself see the difference. So, for example, I know many Filipinos in Canada. They have all, as soon as they're there, they're protected, and you really are not. As a foreigner, when you go there, you're definitely not. But I would argue there's a lot of countries that you still fall into that same ballpark. You got to be careful. You got to be wise. You got to have common sense. And I say, the respect thing goes a long ways. But the culture is extremely friendly and helpful. There's another video I suggest. It's titled "You Won't Find This in Canada," and that one, and Just Because I Asked. These are a couple of videos you should check out if you're interested in some of the culture things and stuff. That I had mentioned and stuff. It might give you a better perspective on what I'm coming from. And for you guys that have been already in the country and have explored other countries, leave a comment. Yeah, leave some feedback on that, where I'm wrong, where I'm right, where I can expand on. Just want to touch base on that because, he's left some other comments on my videos and stuff. And again, I'm not knocking the viewer at all. I think it was a valid point to bring up because there's a lot of other countries, north, like there's Cuba, that's a cheap place, but you can't really own property there so much now. There's a lot of other options. There's Mexico, there's other Asian countries and stuff like that. And the Philippines is not the cheapest to be in. There are other cheaper countries. I also would probably say it's probably also the visa thing. Okay, the visa I would say is one of the easiest to obtain for the Philippines and able to stay the longest on a simple tourist visa. This is another huge plus because it really gives a person a time to stay and kind of get beyond the honeymoon stage, if you will, and really experience it if it's for them or not. And you can't do this in pretty much any other country. You have to either get to a different visa, leave the country, stay out of the country for a significant amount of time. So there's a combination of things, and I really think that fits the basket. And also, again, like I said, a lot of my budget videos are for the guys out there that are looking and they're having a hard time struggling and stuff like that. Anybody that's making $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month, you go wherever you want. You're going to be comfortable more or less, besides North America. So these videos when I do the budgets, it's the guys that are watching their pennies, and what can you get for the best bang for your buck? A lot of people are on, $1,000 to $1,200 to $1,500 only on Canadian stuff like that. And that's a very low budget. That's a difficult budget to go have the door wide open for selection. And I'm not saying you can't live on it. Like I said, in the Philippines, check out that video. That one, I'll lay it right out there. What $1,000 Canadian gets you. You can leave some feedback on there, what I missed and stuff like that. One comment that I was on there saying I missed medical insurance. I'm making a separate video just on that. I believe it needs its own video for that. But yeah, guys, leave some comments that will tell you think, and I would be glad to hear from you and get some feedback. All right, thanks. Everybody take care.